Today's artist is Magnus Nielsen from Denmark. He'll be sharing his experience with us participating in Golden Demon for the first time and actually winning a trophy. Not only that, if you have ever wondered whether you can take this hobby of yours and make it into a career that pays the bills, you'll definitely want to stick around for this interview. Also know that you yourself have a YouTube channel that you run with Bruce.
Yeah.
Get good painting. So
Yeah.
But anyway, enough of me talking. So I want to kind of let you introduce yourself and who you are, what you do, and how you got into miniature painting.
Story is a bit of a longer one, of course, but it doesn't stretch too far back. I had some friends who played, well, way back when we were kids. So they played the game itself and collected minis and stuff like that. So I was already kind of introduced in the sense that I knew about everything, but not really in-depth painting at all. Well, as time goes and I got more financial freedom, of course, but also just in general having mastery of your own time. I wanted to have a hobby that was nothing physical, because I had a physical job back then and did a lot of working out and stuff like that. So I wanted something that was more creative and something where you could sit down for a few hours whenever you wanted to. And this was what led me to go into painting minis. I had a friend, or have a friend, who back then painted Dungeons and Dragons minis. And so he already had the paints and the brushes and stuff like that. So he was actually the one who kind of inspired me to start it and get into it. I guess casual minis from, I don't even remember what company already. And then I actually had a fair bit of painting on Reaper minis. They are plastic minis in kind of like a soft plastic. Not very great detail, but they were great for me because they didn't cost anything. There wasn't any assembly process really. Sometimes it was an arm or whatever, but nothing real assembly-wise. And that was really nice because that meant I could focus only on the painting part. I'd say probably a full year where it was mainly in the weekends, but I would sit down in a weekend and dedicate that weekend to painting one model. And then I would do it to the best of my ability. At some point, my ability kind of exceeded the level of detail, or I guess the quality of the sculpts. So I wanted something that was better in quality. And I knew about Warhammer from, I have some current friends now who play Warhammer and Kill Team. So I knew about the models and everything. And we go to local game store anyways to play Magic. So yeah, I got some minis and kind of got started. And then I just slowly painted and painted some more and painted some more and watched a lot of YouTube and watched a lot of Twitch, and I signed up for a couple of Patreons and stuff like that. So kind of getting deeper and deeper into the painting as skill kind of progressed, right? So that's kind of how everything I guess started for me. If you play games or sports or whatever, you can't really, I mean, if someone asks you what do you do in your spare time, you can tell them, but you can't really show anything. Here you can tell them and you have actually something to show, which was, I think, also one of the main things for me, that if someone asked and someone was interested, you could show something. I met some guys on a Discord. This one was the Richard Gray Discord, actually. And I quickly found out that community is, at least for me it was, but it seems for most people, to kind of push their own skill and boundaries, because they will be subjected to other people who, some are maybe on your level, some are better, but also just the knowledge pool, right? So if you see something and you want to ask someone, you can. So I found that way of kind of communicating, talking about miniatures, always having it kind of in the back of your mind, really helped me. So yeah, from there I kind of pushed the skill. I was never thinking I would compete ever, actually. So I never did, um, until until this Golden Demon. I went to a local competition just a week before, but up until then I'd never competed before, because for me, at least up until then, it was mostly for me and for sharing with friends and, well, having fun. And it's not like, I mean, competition can be fun too. It definitely was. But it is different from, well, I guess, happy hobby.
It's an interesting thing you mentioned is that you got into it because you didn't, like, initially you didn't want to do anything physical because you had some, maybe perhaps a job that was more physical. For me, the reason I got into painting and sculpting was because my day job was animation. So I was more of a character animator for video games. So I was sitting in front of the computer whole day. So what I started to do at home after work was start to dabble in sculpting and painting and all that. So yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that. And community as well, because what I was doing, working in the high-end collectibles, we were serving basically the collectors who just collect the artwork. Whereas now, when I got into this miniature painting, the community are actually the artists themselves, and then you have this community and this camaraderie that you don't usually see in the more of the consumer space, or or people who are not really artists. So everybody sharing knowledge, everybody giving feedback, everybody so humble and welcoming. So nice and interesting change of pace for me as well. And I'm still like going down the rabbit hole, but yeah,
it's deep. It's really deep. So you can get lost. I will say that I had it before too, but I had it through competitive Magic: The Gathering, which means we had a group of people and we did the traveling and the competition, stuff like that, talking about the game and what went wrong and what went right, and optimizing builds and all of that stuff you can do within games. But for me, the real difference here is that the competition part in miniatures is something you do at home on your own at your own pace, and that means when you actually link up with others, you can devote all the time there for community and talking about the things and being excited and stuff like that, where it was kind of the opposite with the card games, because there you did all the talking and the planning and stuff like that at home, but then you went out and now you were in competition mode, which meant like you go to a football game. It's not where you, hang out and have the fun and stuff like that. So I think for me at least, the real strength of the competition part of exactly this is that, well, you already kind of did the competition thing at home. So now you enter your stuff and now you can just, well, there is excitement and stuff like that, but you can relax a bit and you can reach out to people that you don't know, and you can hang out with friends that you already know and stuff like that. So I absolutely enjoy the community side of this much more than well anything else. So I would say for people who, well, maybe like me, were a bit apprehensive, thinking maybe competition isn't for me. It could be that it isn't, but if you are mindful that competition is really the small part of it, whereas the community and camaraderie is the bigger part. Normally it shouldn't be a big problem, at least. Everyone is friendly and welcoming, even in, well, this is obviously a real life situation, that competition. But even online, it is one of the most welcoming communities I've ever felt, and kind of why I even wanted to stay and kind of develop into something more than just me sitting at home and painting with my own thoughts.
Great. So I will kind of jump ahead a little bit in the questions, because you mentioned that you initially didn't want to participate. So this being your like first Golden Demon, one of the major competitions that you participated in, how was the experience like for you, and did you expect that you'd actually win a trophy?
I'd say there is a bit of a prelude to it, because I kind of had a model. I painted a Dante model in a gold shiny armor, and it was kind of the model where I pushed everything and I really tried to paint to the best of ability. Then I took everything I learned from that, and then I put it into the next model. When I was doing the Dante one, as I kind of progressed that, I could see that the level of it was pretty good, and others were telling me this, you should try and compete with it. You kind of have the support of the community, at least if you want to reach out, to kind of push you in a direction if you would want to. That meant I kind of, I guess, leveled up through some plateaus. And I painted some models that I took to competition, and those were all fairly recent models. So you seek a bit of advice and you talk with peers and friends, and I had an idea that they would do well, but I will say that I'm mindful that doing well could be anything, right? Because the judging of competitions will always be subjective. So even though you painted something that you're really proud of, you went over everything, you were neat and you were tight and you were mindful of all the things that you could be, it might be that it doesn't speak to the one viewing it, right? So the judges they don't have the same feelings that you do. So some things that you like, they might not feel as exciting as you do. So even though I had an idea that I gave myself the best shot to win something, or it's not like I went from home and then thought, yeah, I will get it for sure. It was the first Golden Demon and first real competition I went to, which means I had very little reference to what to expect, in the regards that I've seen some models before, it's not like that, but what is actually put into cabinets and what does it look like is very different from what Instagram shows, right? So no, I wasn't sure of anything, but I was thinking going from home that I had a shot at least with, I brought 4 models, and I was thinking, well, at least one of those would have a shot in contention. And I said I would like a couple of commendeds, and I'd be pretty happy with that for a first competition. So I won't say, of course, if you get away with nothing, you are a bit disappointed, right? But I tried to level my expectations in regards to being first competition, not really knowing what the scene is like, or what judges would find exciting or anything. So I tried to pretty level.
Golden Demon has this tradition of always, every time there's the winners are announced and all that, people have their own opinions of, this one should have won, or this one shouldn't have won, or the judging is flawed and all that. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of factors involved, and at the end of the day, it's just a painting competition where everybody just come together and participate. And I guess some people do take it very seriously. They put there, and then some are just doing it very casually, and some do win with lesser number of hours put into a piece compared to someone who didn't win but put a lot of hours into it. So yeah, there's a lot of expectations, and I guess as an artist, to manage one's expectations when going in and just knowing, it's just I'm just sharing my passion of painting miniatures, just, and hopefully if it's appreciated enough, there will be some reward at the end. But
yeah, I think for me the biggest takeaway from Golden Demon was definitely that if you put all of the value on the outcome, there is a real chance you won't have a great time. So having the value in the process of making the thing, having the value in reaching out to community, hanging out, looking at all the other entries, being excited for whoever wins. Because I mean, I went and I was my work was appreciated to the level of a bronze demon, but it was friends who won the golds and the silvers and the other commendeds and stuff like that. So it's, I mean, so in the end, really everyone won, and that was the takeaway from me. And I will say, yeah, sure, you can put 200, 300, 400 hours into a project and still have it not do as good as you hoped. But you should, at least in my opinion, you should still put those hours in for yourself, not for the judges. If you're doing it for the judges, you're doing it wrong, in my opinion, because you really risk someone or some judges or even someone online or whatever not appreciating what you've done,
Yeah.
which means now you feel like you've wasted something.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So, and you didn't, because you should have done it for yourself anyways, right?
Yes, that's exactly. I mean, it's also something that David said that, even if you do want to win a trophy, pick a miniature that you would love painting and enjoy the
Yes.
process. So that's the whole point of it, is why are you doing
Yes.
it in the first place? I mean, a lot of people do this to get away from, their maybe stressful life or stressful jobs.
Yeah.
And you're doing it for yourself, and it's a hobby that brings joy, and it's a bit therapeutic in a way. So,
Yes.
it helps you in the end. So whether you win a trophy at a competition doesn't really matter. And yeah, now that you mention it also, I was supposed to be at SN this year, but
Yeah.
I didn't make it, unfortunately, because I couldn't, my passport needs a visa and I couldn't get it in time.
Yeah.
So I couldn't make it. And then my wife actually was there, and she was the one who recorded the interview and all that. But I mean, I was a bit, of course, disappointed, because I actually had a piece I wanted to participate with and see where I stand in the in terms of quality and all that. But looking at the winners and the level of competition this year, I was like, oh, maybe it's a good thing I didn't make it, because I wouldn't probably even get a notable entry with that piece. But yeah, so it's but at the end of the day, like, looking at all the entries, whether they won or not, a lot of them are very inspiring, like as an artist, that the level of all the art styles, and regardless of whether there was a trophy for them or not. But yeah, it's good to see all those different calibers of work.
Yes. And I will say that it's not, I understand what you're saying, that you're saying, well, maybe it was so tough that it was best that I stayed home. I really don't agree with it, because I brought a friend from Denmark to Spiel, and he entered his first competition, and he took a model that he put some real work into, but he's an army painter. But seeing how proud he was to take his entry and put it in the cabinet, and well, it didn't get anything, and he kind of knew when he put it there, or at least as the weekend progressed. But that was not what it was about at all. It was much more about painting something, traveling from home, putting it in that cabinet, being proud of what you did, comparing and looking and being inspired, and all of those things that kind of surrounds the experience. Much more about that than anything. Obviously, next year he would want to do a bit better if possible, right? But I think he was, at least for me, a great example of someone who had no real expectations, knew that he wasn't the best there anyways, but he wanted to go, he wanted to show, he wanted to be there, right? And you can participate no matter the level, really. It's not like they say, okay, but minimum bar is you have to have this much experience or whatever. And that's the great thing to me, is that everyone who wants to can participate. You can even go, if you don't have a model, just to watch the models and have fun and be involved with the community and stuff like that.
Yeah, actually, my point of saying that I was disappointed was not because I could not only participate, but it was more that I couldn't experience the competition.
Yes.
Yeah, it was more of
Yes.
that than anything,
Yeah.
because whether I won anything or not, I mean, of course, there's going to be future Golden Demons I can participate in, so that's not
Sure.
an issue.
Yeah.
But it was more of, I was looking forward
Yeah.
to experiencing the event. So that was mainly my, kind of disappointment that I couldn't go and participate.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the level of competition was really great, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was compared to, I think, earlier or the previous year. I think the level has even been higher this year, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I haven't been to others, so I can't really speak about the level. But looking in the cabinets, there were no bad pieces. they were all great, and you had notables and pins and commendeds that were all looking great. And sometimes it wasn't awarded more than it was for Golden Demon, I guess, perspective. But that's not to say that in the category of pins, great pieces there. Even in the category of notables, great pieces there too. Across the board, they had really lovely pieces, and I really enjoyed seeing that, all the pieces there.
I realized when I first came across your work, I noticed you have a very unique style when it comes to painting, almost like a pointillism kind of style. Like, is it something you lean towards intentionally, or is it something that developed over time?
I would say it's something that just kind of developed. As I put more and more effort and more hours into something, and I will say also trying different things, you kind of figure out what you favor. So you kind of have like something that is within comfort, and then you paint a fair bit of that. Then you try and kind of break out of that comfort and test some other things and see what it looks like. And sometimes you like it. I found some things that I didn't like to paint that way. And then I did find some things where I do like it. And I will say mainly I kind of lean towards, having it really clean and really defined. And within that, I can kind of be creative in the way that I feel like on that piece. And some pieces, I go for a nice and smooth, non-metallic look like that, and have as much detail as possible. The latest project is one of those where I wanted to create stipple texture on the skin and basically texture everywhere. So it also kind of depends a bit on whatever model I choose and how I get it started. So when I start a project, I have a broader idea, but it's not like everything is mapped out. So as the hours go, I kind of lean into what I enjoyed on the specific model. I tend to keep my hard surfaces, my non-metallics and stuff like that. I tend to keep that very clean and very neat. I found contrasting that with something that is more textured. If you have furs on or cloaks on or leathers on or whatever it is, you can do those in more heavy texture, and it complements quite nicely. So you have some neat elements, and then you have some more textured elements to show side by side, because it kind of something very smooth and very neat stands out even more if it's within a setting of something being scratched or dotted or whatever it is.
I'm not sure if it was you or Bruce who mentioned in one of the podcasts that when it comes to working on, especially for competition, perhaps is you do not like to rush it until the very end. Like, rather you finish the piece much earlier, so you're not stressed over it, and it comes back to that point of you enjoying the process, I guess. Is that right?
I don't enjoy rushing a project because To me, it's really finished when it's finished. And I have projects in the cabinet that aren't finished at all, and they're 6 months old. And I have projects that's a year old and maybe won't ever finish because of the attention to detail, the amount of effort or at least I put into a work, means that I have to enjoy it. If that amounts to 40 hours or something, I'm not going to put it in if I don't enjoy it. My projects really, I don't rush them. They finish if they finish. And I mean, it's not like if I know I want to finish it and it's right about finishing time and it's 7 days left, I will finish it, of course. But if I feel like I have to rush it to finish it, I won't. Take whatever I have, and then I'm fine with taking one entry if I only have one entry. I will be trying to do 2, 3, 4 entries if I can. But if they don't finish and I don't have them to bring, well, I won't. I won't just slap something together just to bring it. If I have a model worth showing off or competing with, I will bring it. But as I said before, really the competition is not what it's about for me. It's about having fun, and now it's also a matter of I want to show some things, right? Because we make the content for Patreon. I want to have the time to think about the Mini. I want to be in the mood for it, be inspired for it, show the things that I want to show on video, stuff like that. And sometimes you just kind of tire on a model. You spent the energy you want to spend on it, and now you can't spend any more. And maybe you're only halfway through it, but I don't care too much. I will put it aside, and then if I feel inspired later on, I'll bring it out again. If I don't, that's okay for me too, because I already got what I wanted from the model. I got to paint the things that I was inspired to do. I had the fun with it, and I got to show the things I wanted to show. And then, so it already kind of served its purpose, right? And well, if I can take it to a competition, it's great. If I can't, that's okay too. It's not the end of the world for me.
I'm a bit different in that sense, because for me, if I start something, I have to finish it. I'm like, you must finish it, because, but then again, it comes back to the point of like when I finish a piece, and of course you can work on a piece forever, but when you call it done after a few weeks, when you come back or look at it again, you think like, oh God, it looks so bad. I can do so much better now. For me, I always I guess I always like to try to one up myself with every piece that I do.
Yeah.
So for me, like finishing the piece is kind of important, because I know if I try to make it perfect now, later it may not be as good as I see it, because I may have improved or progressed.
Yeah, and I think it's something where so obviously at this stage my improvement comes quite a bit slower, right? So that means if I have a model that's maybe a year old, it's not like I've changed massively. So I could pick it up and I could finish it to the same level or degree or whatever. But I do think it's important, if you are, well, really improving on your curve upwards, try and finish if you want to finish the piece, or leave it and then just accept that it's something that you left. Because obviously I have models in my cabinet that are 6 years old now. Looking at those, I mean, I could paint it much better now, but it's not like I don't have the urge to take it out and make it better, because I mean, that was what I could do at that point. So I'm happy with that. And I understand that half finished projects that you take out 2 years later, you've probably improved to the point where it doesn't make much sense to finish it.
Yeah, you might as well start from scratch, or if you really want to do
exactly.
it. Yeah,
Exactly. I feel that less, of course, because as I said, the improvement is slower. But there are definitely some projects where I already sunk in 100 hours, and sure, it would be nice to finish them, but I'm also kind of moved past them, right? So I'm not really inspired to do it. What I could do then is not really the same as I'm doing now. So yeah, I just accept that I got what I wanted from them, and yeah, that's okay too.
What do you think caught the judges' attention when it came to your piece?
It is quite striking in the sense that it is quite detailed, and the lighting on the metallics is really good. So I think it's a matter of having that clean, bright looking non-metallic gold with the white and blue on the side is deliberately wanted something to be quite heavily textured, besides something that was really smooth, really bright, and sophisticated in the sense that I had some change in hues on the bounce reflections and stuff like that. So I think what caught the eye was probably the degree of detail, neatness. Everything is clean, everything is neat. It's not like I have texture where texture is due. It is quite refined and very perfected, so to say. So I think that is probably what caught the eyes of the judges. It's hard to tell, right? Because it could be all kinds of things and a multitude of factors, right?
What advice would you give to someone who, is participating in Golden Demon to hopefully place highly?
Well, the first advice I would give actually is to be less concerned about placing, because you really cannot know. But if you want to give yourself like the best shot at doing well, be really neat, be quite defined. The models are really small, which means readability is really, really important. And I think if you can make something that is striking in some way, so for example, having a muted palette, but having some color there that really draws the eye, some spot colors or whatever, is a great way to draw attention. Well, that stands out and something that others, I think that is the best way to kind of give yourself the shot that you want. But I would say readability and being neat. So it looks like everything you did was deliberate, right? You don't want the judges to think maybe they missed this, or maybe they didn't want to put as much effort into the back, or pay the same attention to all the details, to all the things, and try and be as neat as possible, as defined as possible, really, for the readability, because they are quite small. So when you look at them, even though judges obviously look at them really up close, you don't want anything to look messy, quote unquote. You want everything to look finished, to look deliberate, to look neat. Even if you're doing something that is scratched up metals or rusted over things and stuff like that, you can do that, but you still want to do it controlled, do it neatly, and lean into something that can kind of set you apart, right?
Yeah.
To catch attention. I think that is the best advice.
It's a common theme among all the artists I've interviewed so far, is that they've all said that pay equal attention to every part of the model, basically. Yeah.
You just don't want the judges to think, oh, okay, so they didn't want to spend any effort here.
You've done a few Warhammer and Age of Sigmar models, but are there any other miniatures you like to work on?
I haven't yet, and I did in the past, right? Dungeons and Dragons models and stuff like that. But for higher end, I've basically exclusively turned my attention to Games Workshop stuff. I would want to do some busts in the future. There are two reasons. One reason is the quality of the sculpts from Games Workshop is the best I've found, and I want them to be of high quality if I'm going to spend a lot of time painting them. So that's one of the main reasons for sticking with those types of models. The other reason, because we turned it into a company, a job, Bruce and I, we obviously want to showcase things that speak to the most amount of people. The fan base of Warhammer and Age of Sigmar is the biggest, and painting those models lets us go to Golden Demon and enter them there, and we can still take them to open competitions. So that's the reason why I'm on Games Workshop stuff. I want to paint models that inspire me, and I try to pick ones that I think has the most appeal to.
I come from more of a resin statue background, but looking at their plastic models, I'm really impressed by the sharpness of the details. That's just the technical aspect, but of course the designs and everything, especially the Age of Sigmar models, the designs of them are great. there are other companies doing interesting work in terms of baths and on other different scales. But yeah, I agree. Miniature painting is your hobby and passion and now a business, but is there any other form of art that you dabble in?
There actually isn't, and I don't come from an artistic background. I don't have any formal training or anything like that. So for me, this was my artistic kind of outlet. So I don't enjoy too much other art in general. It's not like I can be inspired by paintings and stuff like that. And as I said, I played Magic before, so. We obviously were inspired by the artworks from that too, but not that I painted myself, not in that way at least. I'm not good with the 2D art at all. Actually, I need something 3D to put it on. Otherwise, it's too hard for me.
I guess that's also what makes you so great at what you do, is because you're focused. Like just doing the thing that really speaks to you.
Yeah, and it's also a matter of I'm not trying to, I guess, force anything onto a 3D medium that comes from anything else, right? So while it can be a real strength to be inspired by other forms of art, it can also be something where you're basically, let's say, at heart a 2D artist, and now you want to try to bring that 2D onto miniatures, for example. And there are things that work and there are things that don't. So in some regards, it can be holding you back a bit, even though obviously in other aspects it's a real strength.
We're at this point of the interview where I usually ask artists to bash my work. So basically I show them my latest work and I want them to critique it as harshly as they want, because I want to learn something from them, and also the viewers can take away something from it. So I will share a link to you.
Yeah, so it's again so it's Angron versus the lion, and you did a 3D sculpted base too.
Yeah,
it's really, really nicely done actually. Really dynamic. You can really see everything that is going on, and holy moly, it's a really nice one. At least to me, it's mostly about the quality of the specific paint jobs, right? You basically want to be as perfect as possible on everything. It's details, in the sense that painting something white, you don't want to have as dark shadows on that. So you probably want to have a bit softer shadows, right? Same when you do metallics and stuff like that. You want to be really mindful of the neatness and the shine on the elements. So I think that project is a really, really nice one. And I think how to specifically elevate it is not through one or two things. It's, I guess, an improvement overall, putting the same amount of effort into everything, and then raising that bar a bit, and then putting that into everything, raising that bar a bit, and then so on and so forth, because it's a really huge scene. I have an Angron model in my cabinet that I never actually finished. It's a huge one to paint. It's complicated. The line is not an easy one either. Re-sculpting or reposing or whatever is really tough. So this could have easily too been like an 800-hour project if you had to go into minute detail with everything. But in a competition sense, that's also what they will be looking at. So in diorama and duel, if you take, for example, the duel that won gold, it won a gold because every aspect of it was perfect. You had no areas that looked dry brushed, for example. You had no areas that wasn't blended out perfectly. You had the lighting exactly how it was supposed to be and stuff like that. So I would say in general, these things are, especially on bigger pieces like that, incredibly hard, because you basically need to be perfecting everything, leaving nothing out. The painting on it is good, but, well, would it win a Golden Demon? I don't think it would, right? But it would, but it wouldn't be a bad looking piece in a cabinet, right? It would probably do good, but well, you couldn't know for sure, right? But obviously there is a room for improvement. But I think it's more of a room for improvement in an overall sense. That would be my feedback for it.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
Yeah, it is my main takeaway, and there is a real reason why entries in large category, for example, they are so hard to do. Is because, well, you're basically taking the same effort you would put like from beginning, right?
Yeah, it's also the reason why I started to record the process and start sharing it, is also to make myself accountable that I want to put equal amount of effort in everything that I do. So because if I was just working by myself and sharing the process, I might be a bit lazy, or maybe it's just me, but I wanted to be like, okay, I'm going to be sharing this with people, so I want to make sure it's as nice as possible. And if I'm sharing, I want to give someone something to take away from it. I want to put in my best foot forward. So yeah,
and I think if you have aspirations to really improve, I think that's a good way to do it. You don't have to record it, but sharing with others, even if it's just photos, is something where you can kind of feel, I guess, more committed, right? And I think as soon as you feel that, you're also inclined to push a bit more, because, well, now you've shown something, and you kind of want to live up to that, right? It's not different for me. Now I have a demon in the cabinet, and I would love to get another one, of course. So I am obviously pushing for that too. And in the same sense, if you start sharing things and stuff like that, it means that others can see what you can do, and now you want to do, well, at least the same, if not a bit better. It's just in human nature, I think.
So I guess my last question will we are all about the craft, and doing our craft, it's what makes us happy. But when you're commercializing it, making it into a business, like some of us are not really as good at managing a business or managing finances in a way. What advice would you give when it comes to doing something like that, like taking your craft and making it a bit more commercial, and how important is it an artist is able to achieve the financial freedom that they need to own their craft as a full-time thing, and not worry about anything else?
Yeah, this is a really, really complicated one, in the sense that, well, actually, my best advice would be don't, in the sense that if you enjoy this thing as a hobby, there is a real risk that you won't enjoy it as a job, which means you need to make up your mind. Is it okay if I end up not enjoying it anymore, basically? Because it is a real risk. It's the same thing I've heard from so many commission painters and people trying to do Patreon, or like in a content sense or in a teaching sense or whatever, because it's not very lucrative. If you feel like, well, but I really want to, I think you kind of to make up your mind. What is more important to you? Is it more important to kind of be true the art you're creating, or is it more important for you to, I guess, grow business in the most optimal way? Because those two things might not be the same, in the sense that in the ideal world, people will just love what you're doing, and then they want to watch it or follow it or whatever it is, and they will support you. In reality, that is probably the slow growth. Whereas if you really want to turn it into a big profit with like a sudden spike or whatever, you might have to do some things that isn't really the artistic approach, because oftentimes it's really hard to make money off of something where you're stressing over every detail and preparing competition stuff and stuff like that. So I will say, for us, or for me, the actual factual painting part is less of the business compared to the teaching and the community and stuff like that. Well, you kind of need to have a plan. You kind of need to make up your mind. where do you want to be in the grander scene? What kind of things do you want to produce? And is it more important for you to produce the things you want to, or is it more important for you to produce the things that people would want, right?
Exactly.
So that and that's a real hard balance.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we quite found it even yet, and we're trying to stay true. We're trying to produce the things that we like, and hoping that others like the same things too, right?
It's also what I've experienced myself, because the last 10 years when I was actually running a business, initially when we started out with doing things that we love, right?
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily what makes you the money.
Rich.
It's not what brings in the dough. At the end of the day, you have to give what the consumers want, and it may not be what you want to work on. If you want to keep the joy of doing the hobby, focus on that. And if that really, is what the consumers want, then you're lucky, I guess. But
yes.
But if you want to have a sane mind and enjoy what you're doing in the long run, you probably want to focus on that aspect and let the other things be more of a secondary thing.
Probably the best thing to do is to kind of slow transition.
Yep.
Do a bit of content, or do a bit of teaching, or whatever it is you want to do with your company, but in the slow. And then as you kind of grow it a bit, work less on a normal job. Yeah. I think that is the safe way. Yeah. We started this one up as I was going from one job to another. And then instead of going, we started this. And I will say, in a business sense, we're not far in. I mean, we work hard, lots and lots of hours, and we're not at a place where it can fully support it. So you need to also be mindful that you're not going to just leap into it and then it can sustain itself right away. It never can. I have a rule of thumb that if it can somewhat sustain itself within 12 months, you're doing really, really good. And even before that, you might not make much money.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, the only reason why we do what we do is because we enjoy it. And the only way for something to grow, especially a business, it takes time. So how do you persevere in something that takes time? Is you do what you enjoy. So, so the transition is always have to be slow and sustainable in a way. So,
I agree completely.